Now we're going to do lesson 9.3, example 2, the second part here. So you can see here, this time I have one that's a little more complex. I still have a monomial here because all three of these two variables and the constant are being multiplied. But that's being multiplied by a 1, 2, 3, 4, a polynomial with 4 terms. So I'm going to multiply this by each one of these individually. So first of all, 2xy squared times 3x. So I'm going to multiply the 2 times the 3. That's going to give me 6. X, remember this squared only goes with the y. So I could put a 1 above the x if I forget, and a 1 above this x. So x times x, I add the exponents, that's x squared. Since I don't have any more y's, it's just y squared. Next, 2x squared times negative, don't forget that negative, very important. So 2 times negative 8 is negative 16. X times x is x squared. Y squared, y to the 1 is y cubed. 2xy squared times 5y. 2 times 5 is going to be 10. Then I have x, and then y squared times y to the 1 is y cubed. Finally, 2xy squared, then don't forget that negative. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. X, nothing, so I'm just going to leave the x. Y squared, there's no y's here, so I'm going to leave y squared. And then the z from that. I check and see if I have any like terms. X squared y squared, x squared y cubed, those are not like terms. X squared xy cubed, not like terms. X squared y squared z, not like terms. None of the others are like terms, so this is my answer. Next, I have a binomial being multiplied by a binomial. So when I have a binomial multiplied by a binomial, I'm going to do this a little bit differently. Remember, this is a binomial because it has two terms. Remember, anytime I have an addition sign or a subtraction sign, that means a new term. So I have two binomials. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to multiply my 3x by both of these terms, and then I'm going to multiply by negative 7 by both of these terms. So 3x times 2x, that's 6x squared. Remember, 3 times 2 is 6. X times x is x squared. Then 3x times negative 5, that's negative 15x. Next, negative 7 times 2x is negative 14x. Negative 7 times negative 5 is positive 35. So I multiplied my first term by both of these terms, and then my second term by both of these terms. Now I end up with this, but remember I have to check to see if there are like terms. Notice these two terms both have 1x, therefore they are like terms. Remember, when I add like terms, I add the coefficients. So that's going to be negative 29, but I leave the variable the same. These aren't being multiplied, so that's not x squared. So make sure you do not make that x squared. It's negative 15x and negative 14. I add the coefficients, the numbers in front, but I leave the variable the same. I don't have any other like terms, so I simply copy my other two, and that is my final answer. 6x squared minus 29x plus 35. Now, what about a little bit more complex problem here? So here I have 3x squared plus 4x plus 9 times x minus 2. So now I have a 1, 2, 3. Remember, every addition or subtraction is a new term, so this is a trinomial times a binomial. And this time I'm going to do it vertically up and down instead of horizontally like I did last time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply all three of these terms times my first term here, which is negative 2. So 9 times negative 2 is negative 18. 4x times negative 2 is negative 8x. 3x squared times negative 2 is negative 6x squared. Next, I'm going to multiply this x by all three of these terms, but I'm going to put those below, and I'm going to line them up with their like terms. So since 9 times x is 9x, I'm going to line it up with 8x because it is a like term, and I'm going to put the symbol there positive since it is positive. I'm not going to put it here because 9 times x, 9x is not a like term with negative 18. It's a like term with this. Then I'm going to do x times 4x is simply 4x squared. Again, I'm going to put the positive, and I'm going to line it up right below this other x squared. Finally, 3x squared times x is 3x cubed. Now, I can easily add like terms because I have them all lined up. Negative 18 doesn't have any like terms, so I simply drop it down. Negative 8x and positive 9x gives me positive 1x. Again, put that positive sign there. That's very important to show that you are adding these terms, not multiplying them. And then this is going to give me negative 2x squared. Again, when you add your like terms, leave the variables the same. This is not x to the fourth because I'm not multiplying these. I'm adding them. So when I add like terms, I add my coefficients, but I leave the variable the same. Finally, I drop down my last one since there's no like terms, and I get my answer there, which is 3x cubed minus 2x squared plus x minus 18. So that is when I'm adding